Tina Gravalos, we met spring 2019.
Yep. Yep.
We met at the airport, Houston, and we were on our way to Greece to do an EU-sponsored feta cheese trip, right? And we spent about a week in Greece with a bunch of other people. And the constant thing that I remember people in Greece saying to you was, "What do you do?"
Yeah, I remember that. Trying
And
to
it
explain
was,
to them was hard.
yeah, and you know what? I already know what you do, but what listeners and viewers don't know, perhaps what you do. Tell the good people who you are and what you do.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Jim.
Thank you for being on.
So I am a nutritionist, more formally, I guess, holistic nutritionist. And a lot of people think that when I say holistic, they're like, oh my God, it's like woo woo stuff. Like, let's go to, the other end of town to get this like specific ingredient that you can never find kind of thing and make like a potion. This is like literally stuff that people say to me.
Right.
But it's totally not that. And what holistic means is taking every aspect of an individual's health into an account. So we look at their mental health, their physical health, emotional health, and it sort of helps us to determine the root cause of what's going on with someone's health. And a lot of times, like, you'll just go to the doctor and you're like, oh, I have a headache, and they're just like, okay, take this or have this medication. It's like super quick, like, let's do that. But what I do is I figure out why you're getting that headache. What's the cause of that headache? What can we do to support that and figure it out that way? So, yeah, that's basically my little spiel of myself.
Right. I guess my question for that is, do you find that the why is always the most challenging question that you can pose to someone who may not be either ready to find the answers, doesn't want to face the answers, doesn't know what they'll learn from the answers?
Absolutely. I think most people are looking for that, I guess, that Band-Aid fix. Like, I'll just have the Tylenol now and then the headache will go away, but I'm going to keep getting those headaches and keep doing those things. So when I talk to people about stuff, when they say, again, the example, I'm getting headaches, I'll ask questions around that to sort of figure out maybe what's happening. And a lot of times people are fearful of hearing what it could be because, like, again, like you said, they're not usually ready to change their lifestyle, which is tough to get across to people sometimes. Trying to help people sort of get back to basics with nutrition. Again, like when they come to me, I think sometimes it's like their wives are sending them if it's a male, and they're like, oh, my wife sent me to you and I'm just here to, like, those people are very tough to deal
Right,
with.
right, right.
Yeah, so usually it's stuff like that. And it's literally things like drink more water or like, eat more vegetables, eat this, eat that. And they're like, so you're not going to tell me to, make this like concoction of whatever. I'm like, no, like you have to get back to the basics. And I think people are just so far into this like other world of just always, first of all, go, go, go. Like our society is like that. And when you tell them to like slow down and stuff, they're just like, huh? Like, and they don't process, and it's hard to get that across to them.
Right. So fear and, for lack of a better term, ignorance, but not so much ignorance in a bad way, but ignorance in a way where it's maybe you're misinformed or uninformed altogether.
Yeah. And there's so much information out there. You can go on Google and say like, oh, what's the healthiest vegetable, right? There's always someone who's saying like kale's the healthiest, or,
Right.
spinach is the healthiest, or do this, do that. And then people are like, huh? Like, who do I believe?
Right.
How do I navigate this?
And holistic, I don't know, I blame Hollywood. I don't know. I'm an 80s
Yeah,
kid,
100%.
right? Holistic is like this voodoo maybe thing.
Yeah.
Like, you're out there, man. You're weird.
Yeah.
Well, in reality, based on what you're saying is, man, no, it's just centering yourself to
Yeah.
kind of learn more about yourself to move forward to better your life in all aspects,
100%.
not
Yeah.
just with what you eat, but how you think, how you feel, how you react to emotions, how you react to life circumstances,
Yes.
right?
And there definitely are, I'm not going to lie, there are holistic nutritionists out there that are a little intense.
Sure, of course.
And they will, recommend like 12, 13 supplements and all these like
Right.
weird things. Not to say that those things aren't helpful, but for someone who has no idea what those things are, it's very overwhelming, and getting them to like comply with those things is just,
Right.
they maybe will do it for a couple days.
And when you hit people with 12 nutritional supplements,
Yeah.
I got to feed my kids.
Yeah.
I got to
They're
eat myself.
expensive. 100%.
Add it to the list of things I got to do. Well, that said, there's a lot of things that go into taking care of yourself. And lately, because of what's happening in the world today, unfortunately, a lot of people got panicked into buying all this toilet paper. My question for Tina Gravalos is, when everybody was going for the toilet paper in the supermarket, what was Tina Gravalos going after?
Well, first of all, when I go to the grocery store, I'm like thinking in my head, okay, what can I buy that's going to make like a bunch of different meals instead of buying so many different things and I'm going to make like 40 different meals? Like, what can I use garlic for throughout the week? Like maybe 5 or 6 different dishes, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So same with like spinach and other greens. I'm like, okay, I can make a salad with this. I can put it in my smoothie. I can saute it. There's like so many different things. So those for sure. I get a lot of frozen veggies and fruits too. Especially right now, if you can get your hands on frozen veggies, totally a good option versus getting fresh stuff if you want to keep it longer.
Right.
So again, like you can put those in smoothies. You can just thaw it out, like saute it, put it in soups. So I get lentils is a big one. I love making like lentil salads, lentil soups. And those are like, that's like a non-perishable thing. So you can put it in the cupboard. That will last you a long time. Olive oil is always a thing.
Oh, well, that's what I mean. Like you're talking lentils, perhaps even chickpeas, canned chickpeas, maybe red and black kidney beans. Yeah, I mean, those are versatile things where you can make either like, I don't know, I make dips with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I make a hummus or, red kidney bean dip.
Any canned stuff that you can get, like, chickpeas, beans, lentils you can get canned if you want. You can get them or just dried. Like, there's so many different things. And I think, like, people, the fear of being home and who knows what's going to happen, right, with all the food and stuff, they're, like, hoarding all of the unnecessary things that can actually end up harming them, like making their immune system, like suppressing their immune system when we want to work on, being more resilient. Like, how can we build our bodies to be more resilient to things like this?
We all know it's a tough time. I mean, like you're having probably a healthy drink right now. You've had, I mean, like for argument's sake, you've had a rough day. You've had a tough week, maybe even a bad month. You get home every night, you're exhausted. You probably haven't been eating well, just generally speaking, not so much specifically you. But if you've had a tough time, if you've had a lot of stress, if the bills are piling up, if the kids won't shut up, if you don't know how to do the kids' homework, whatever the case may be, for you, if you've had a bad kind of week, what do you reach for? And what do you stop yourself from reaching for with respect to making you feel better about kind of, how do you make yourself feel better? What do you reach for? What do you fight against reaching for?
So for me, I've worked on this for a while, actually. I don't know if you've heard of the term intuitive eating. I know it sounds kind of like woo-woo, but I guess I'll use the word food freedom. It sounds a bit better than intuitive eating. So I've worked on it where I don't make foods like off limits. Like, there's no food that I'm like, this is good for me and this is bad for me, because when I put a label on those things, especially like the bad category, right, we put things in that category like chips and pop and all those things. When you put that label on it, you're going to want more of that specific thing. So to say you eat the chips and you feel bad about yourself because you ate an entire bag of chips, you're going to keep wanting that more and more, because your body is sort of like adjusting to hyper palatable foods. Those kinds of foods, they make us want more and more because it sends signals to our brain, like a reward system. It makes us happy. It releases dopamine, which is like the feel good hormone. So we're going to keep going for those foods. So what I've done is I've taken those labels out, and honestly, it's taken me a long time. This is not something that like you can totally do overnight, but it's something you can start doing. So I still have these foods sometimes in the house, but I'm just, as soon as I take that label off, I actually don't want to have it as much, if that makes sense.
The nutritional label.
Yeah, the label of like the label of that food being bad for me.
Got it.
Okay. Right? So like, I'll have some of those foods that are like maybe a treat once in a while sort of thing. But since I've worked on that, like honestly, I keep going for those foods that make me feel like good. So if I'm stressed, like if I'm going to eat like a bag of chips, like I'm still going to feel like crap after. So I just try to replace that with foods that are going to make me feel good. And I just kind of like trust what my body wants sort of thing.
Mhm.
And in that moment, if it happens to be a handful of chips, like I'll have a handful of chips. But I just feel so much better when I'm reaching for like the fruits and the veggies and like the nuts and the seeds, and they just help with your mood and everything at the same time.
So are you suggesting maybe, because I think I find that for myself too, is it like it's more of like, how am I going to feel after I indulge in this food?
Yeah, exactly. And most of the time, like we're used to doing that all the time. We'll go and eat, that creamy pasta that we know that doesn't make us feel great, or
Right.
like again the chips and all that stuff. But over time, like our body, we just get like tired of having those things and feeling that way. And then once you just start to reach for the more nourishing foods for your body, you'll notice such a difference, and you're gonna keep wanting to have those better options.
But how do you bounce back? Or is it a matter of bouncing back if you take the label off, and you kind of indulge in that handful of chips? Can we call that now bouncing back from that kind of moment of weakness? Or is it just not allowing yourself to think that it's a moment of weakness? You take that
Yeah.
label off as well?
Absolutely. I think if you say, it's a moment of weakness and we're bouncing back, you're kind of putting yourself back into that mentality of what you're doing is bad for you. That makes sense.
Mhm.
What I try to tell clients is that if we eat these like balanced meals throughout the day, and by balance, I mean literally like protein, fats, and carbs at every single meal, you likely not want to you likely won't crave that Nutella sandwich in the evening. And the thing is too, like we're used to, so example for breakfast, everyone has been brainwashed that cereal is like a really good breakfast food, but you're basically having like sugar in a bowl, or not enough like protein and fats to help you like get through the day. So a lot of times I tell people, okay, like if you had your lunch and you're hungry 20-30 minutes later, you should kind of look back at what you had for lunch, because you could technically go like 2 to 3 hours without eating if you had proper stuff at lunch. So like literally like piece of chicken, some like sweet potatoes, and like avocado, or like a salad. Those are like really good like nourishing things. If you like load it up with olive oil, like I tell people not to be afraid of fats, because fats are going to keep you full, and they're going to help with like your immune system, inflammation, like boosting your mood, like things we want right now.
And I think when people are reaching for something, and I think we've all been guilty of it, 30, 40, 45 minutes, an hour later, that's another band-aid solution
Yeah.
to crave that hunger, where you're not looking at the source of the problem, which is an hour and a half before that, when it was lunch and you had kind of either a nourishing or a waste of time kind of lunch,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're feeling hungry in 30 minutes, you probably didn't have that best of lunch,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
Well, let's take
Totally.
a step back. You're a one-woman operation, Tina
Yes.
Gravalos. You're sitting at U of T. You're doing a double major, sociology, criminology, socio-legal studies. I've
Yeah.
done my research on you, Tina Gravalos.
I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that time in my life.
Right. My question for you is: at what point did you say, "Aha,
Yeah.
I'm
This
going
is
to
a
do
good
that"?
question. Yeah. So I in high school, you're 17. You're like, how do you know what you want to do? First of all, and I was like, oh, I love crime shows. I love, like all that stuff. So I'm gonna get into criminology and stuff, because I'm gonna be like a CSI like person
Right.
on the show. But clearly that didn't happen. So what happened with me actually, okay, I was like the best student like all my life, and then I went to university, and it was just such a like wake up call of how much work you have to do. And not saying I didn't work hard, that sounds bad, but anyway, so I actually ended up getting put on probation after my first year, because my grades were terrible, and I was partying a little bit. And
Right.
so I so got put on probation. Then second year I was supposed to get my grades up, didn't, and then I ended up getting suspended for an entire year. from university, and I was like, oh my God, such a failure. And luckily my parents were super supportive, and so I had this year off, and I kind of was getting into more like health magazines. Just randomly I would start reading them at the grocery store and whatnot, and like coming across blogs, and I was really interested in it. So I didn't really think much about it, but then I ended up going back to U of T to finish my degree. And then once I went back, I remember I would have like my stack of textbooks, but then I would have like a health magazine on the side, and I was supposed to be doing essays on that stuff, and I just was so fixated on the health stuff. And I ended up coming across a blog, this nutritionist she's like my idol. She went to the school that I ended up going to after, Institute of Holistic Nutrition. And I was like, yep, like I need to go here. And I remember just like going for the orientation just to like check out the school and everything. And I remember walking into the school and immediately felt like this is where like I needed to be. I literally have goosebumps right now thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I just had this sense of like this is it for sure. And I sat in on a sample class, and I was like, my eyes were just huge the entire time. Like I was so into it. And I just remember going home like, Mom, I blah, 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 I learned this, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden I just, yeah, like that was my like turning point. And I finished my degree at U of T, which I'm so glad I did, because I learned a lot of stuff, and I did a lot of psych courses, which actually helped me now in my practice.
Huge.
So I totally don't regret it, but I'm glad I finished. But like, it's crazy how things change, like from one thing to another. Every time, I don't know, like I work with a client, and at the end, like when they send me feedback, I sometimes get emotional because I'm so happy for them, and I'm so happy that they're actually trusting me with their health, and the things that I'm doing are actually supporting them, which is amazing.
Huge. And that leads me to my next question, actually, because there are a lot of, nutritionists, there's a lot of dietitians, people who are, I mean, the internet has made it easier for them to now get their voices heard. And a lot of people buy into anything that some of these people say because it's a name. Well, if she said that, I trust her. If he said that, I trust them. My question for you is, you're making differences in people's lives. What sets you apart from your neighborhood nutritionist, dietitian, holistic, anything, right?
Yeah, so I actually struggled with this for a while because there's so many in the field that at one point I was like, oh my God, this is so saturated. There's so many of us saying similar things, and like, how am I going to set myself apart? Which was, yeah, it was a big struggle for me. But I think what's cool is that a lot of my nutritionist friends, like, yeah, we are in the same field, but we all offer, and it could be like similar information, but we all have our own like spin on things, or our own like touch on things, which for me, my thing is like keeping things super simple, going back to basics, and like just like showing up as like my authentic self like all the time, and like showing like the good and the bad, because there's always going to be that stuff. And again, like I think simplifying stuff is my thing that sets me apart from other nutritionists, because I'm literally like, okay, let's go back to basics, like drink your water, like eat your vegetables, do this. They're like, huh? Like, really? I think over the last like 2 years is when I've really like stepped into my true like self, and not putting up this front just because I'm on social media and stuff. Like, we follow each other, right? Like, I'm super honest, and I'll just go on. Sometimes I'm like crying, or like sometimes I'm showing a recipe fail. Like, it's just, I think people resonate with that more now than the super curated like photos and stuff.
Yeah, a lot of emotions these days. A lot of people are sensitive. A lot of things are happening. How do you coach someone who might be an emotional eater during this time, during difficult times in general?
That's sort of my um, going back to the whole like food freedom, intuitive eating thing, because emotional eating is definitely part of that. So I kind of do like the same sort of approach with them about not like categorizing foods and things like that. And when someone's an emotional eater, and especially now with stress, when we stress, our body depletes so many important nutrients. And what I just tell them basically like little things they can do, like for example, vitamin C is huge. We hear about it all the time, especially when we are stressed. It's one of the major vitamins that gets depleted. So I literally will tell them like what I'm drinking right now, with like vitamin C powder and like water, and I'll literally drink this throughout the day, or even like water with like squeeze lemon or things like that, just to like get them sort of working on things slowly. I don't like to throw a lot of stuff at people because they get overwhelmed. I usually send people like little things like they can start doing within like a week, within the next week, like so they don't get overwhelmed. But and also too, like honoring your emotions is a big thing too. Like it's okay to feel stress right now. It's okay, if you're gonna eat the donut, like eat the donut and just like move on with your life kind of thing. Like don't over like think it. And that really helps a lot with emotional eaters too.
Baby steps. You see
Yeah.
the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
You're right.
Like I don't judge. Like I am the least judgy nutritionist. Like there are times who will yell at, I'm not kidding, like they will yell at their clients. They're not gonna comply if you're yelling at them.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah, I sometimes I tell my clients, I'm like, yeah, I had a donut like on my way here. Like I wanted a Tim Hortons donut and I ate one. But do I eat the donut every single day? No, I don't eat the donut every day. It's like consistency over time is what's going to cause like diseases and all those things of what you eat over time. If you're gonna have a donut once like every 5 months, you're good. Eat the donut.
So you treat people like adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's all
talk
it is.
like I'm talking to my friends. I drop a lot of F-bombs with my clients. They appreciate it.
Sure. Somebody told me once, I don't trust anyone who doesn't swear.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean, there's something wrong. I don't know. That's to each your own, to each his own.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I believe in that philosophy. Moving kind of besides the food, activities for kind of a healthier, holistic kind of train of thought, spirit, emotion. Um, going outside is fairly limited. Although I've seen far more families take family walks these days.
Yes, me too.
During times of pandemic,
Right?
than any other time. All of a sudden, everybody's rollerblading again.
I know, right?
Okay, together.
I honestly think, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's all good. Go ahead.
That, like, okay, yes, this virus is terrible and like we're still figuring stuff like I'm the scientist. We are figuring them. They are figuring things out about it every single day. But yeah, it's scary, but at the same time I think it's gonna change a lot of people's perspectives on life, and I'm hoping that it does that and people are gonna start taking care of themselves more, and they're going for the walks like you said. And I think after this people aren't going to take those things for granted. And I think like in a way this, like, I wouldn't say like, maybe it did need to happen for us to to have a new perspective on life, right?
Perhaps,
Like
yeah.
to slow down and to reevaluate things and like maybe create new routines. And so I think
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it's a good thing obviously, but
Obviously not. But you're saying like family together time, family walks,
yes,
activities
absolutely.
that promote
Getting
better
in
health.
nature is the best thing, especially when it's sunny outside. Vitamin D is so important for immune support and mood and all kinds of different things. Like get in your kitchen, like explore like what you have in the fridge, or like look up new recipes, see how you can adapt them to what you like, and just appreciate the entire experience, from like start to finish, and sitting down and eating it and everything. It really helps with your mood and stuff too, actually, just like prepping your own. So I don't know, like for me and like a lot of my clients love doing it. So that's one thing. Another thing would be like, again with the donut situation, like have the donut and move on with your life. But the more like sugar and stuff you have, it actually suppresses your immune system, and we don't want that right now. So trying to limit those foods that aren't nourishing you is a good thing to do. And just like even exploring new foods, like go to the grocery store. I know like some things aren't available, but
Right.
if you haven't had kale ever, like go grab some kale and like learn how to cook with kale, or just like keep feeding your body with like those simple things again, right? Like proteins, fats, and good carbohydrates, and like nuts and seeds and all those goodies.
Yeah.
Find those like recipes that are your comfort food and see if you can swap things out and make them a bit better for your health.
See, I can tell when I put on 5 pounds. I can tell. I feel it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
when I go onto your website, the first thing that I see on your website is a no fuss approach
Yes.
to better health, right?
Yeah.
Explain that just to be super clear.
And for me, like the no fuss thing is just the whole going back to basics, and like we forget what that is. So I help my clients do just that. And I actually take a lot of them to the grocery store and just show them things and how simple things can be and how we've just overcomplicated things.
Hands-on approach. And
Yes.
if it starts from the top and you are at the top, what should viewers and people who want to get in touch with you know about you as far as a daily mantra is concerned? How do you start the day every day? And how do you go to bed at night? Like, what do you say to
Yeah.
yourself before you go to bed? And what do you say to yourself when you wake up every morning?
Yeah. So when I get up in the morning, before I get out of bed, I usually will say like 3 things that I'm grateful for. It doesn't have to be like what you're grateful for this day, but it could just be things you think about. Like, for example, like I'm grateful for my like, my comforter that is so like whatever comfortable, or like I'm grateful for like the dinner I had last night. Or so I always like pick 3 things and I start the day that way, and I don't look at my phone in the morning, because that, especially right now
Mm-hmm.
with everything going on, we can go down this like rabbit hole. We don't want that like anxious feeling in the morning, especially. And then similar to the evening, I'll do like the exact same thing with what I'm grateful for. And I always find something, even if you've had a shitty day, there's always something that you can find that you're grateful for. Like, oh, I'm grateful I got to like go outside for a moment, or I'm grateful for the FaceTime chat I had with my friend. So expressing gratitude is so huge, and it actually helps too with a lot of people and like emotional eating and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mind, body, spirit, soul, right?
Yes, it
Tina
all
Gravalos.
comes together.
It all comes together, and we came together. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for taking the time to do this. Your first ever podcast,
Woohoo!
ever kind of podcast show this time around. Episode 001. Tina Gravalos, you're awesome. You're keeping it real. I wish
Thanks,
you all the
man.
best in success, health, and happiness. TinaGravalos.com. Hit her up on social, on Facebook, and on Instagram. Thank you so much, Tina, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
Ciao.